I'm an equity research analyst, so I assess publicly traded companies to make stock recommendations to institutional investors. So I would see the role that I play in terms of diagnostic companies is assessing different publicly traded diagnostic companies and determining whether I think they make a good investment, how their shares are valued relative to other companies in the space, and whether I think investors are wise to put their dollars in those types of companies. The type of investor is one that can see that link to clinical utility. I think that's where diagnostic companies can benefit the most. If they can really explain their story to investors, it can make that link to the broader drug world, then I think investors are more likely to be willing to invest in that particular name because you're more able to quantify the market potential. They're agnostic towards whether it's diagnostic or drug, as long as you meet their listing requirements. I think it more comes down to investor interest, and diagnostics on one hand is a little less risky in terms of development from a drug company, but the market potential generally tends to be less, and so you have to weigh the pros and the cons. It's a tough decision, I think, on when to go public, because the ideal company that goes public is already well financed and has investors that want to stay as opposed to exit that company. From my perspective, I would like to see companies that go public that already have a validated test. They may not necessarily market it, but unless I can really assess the clinical utility and how well that test performs in terms of sensitivity and specificity, then I'd be reluctant to recommend investment. It probably relates to scrutiny, public scrutiny with any publicly traded company, the constant need to satisfy investors in a very public forum, the scrutiny of financial statements. People know when you're running out of money, and that can drive down your share price. Well, I think certainly Genomic Health has made remarkable strides in selling their tests, and obviously Myriad Genetics in their breast cancer tests have done extraordinarily well. So I think certainly people realize there is great potential, but the bar is now, I think, starting to be set a little higher, not only in terms of regulations, but also the link to clinical practice. There's a lot of promise for the future of diagnostics, particularly as they relate to clinical utility and how those products can be used to designate the right types of patients that can benefit the most from taking particular products.